There is one single truth about their internal world that a narcissist will protect at all costs. They will spend an entire lifetime hiding this reality behind polished charisma, sudden explosions of rage, calculated periods of total silence, and tears that only appear when they serve a specific purpose. That truth is surprisingly simple once you recognize it. A narcissist is not truly frightened by your anger. They are not intimidated by your tears, nor are they shaken by your repeated threats to pack your bags and leave. They have already navigated those emotional outbursts dozens of times before. What actually terrifies them to their core is the precise moment you stop reacting to their games. It is the moment you finally see through the illusion and observe their behavior with complete detachment. In that exact instant, the hidden engine of their control begins to stall. The illusion shatters completely, and whatever pattern of manipulation they use to drain your energy realizes it is staring at someone it can no longer control. That is when their behavior shifts in strange and unnerving ways. Once you learn to recognize these sudden shifts, you will understand a secret most people miss for their entire lives. The narcissist was never the strong one in the relationship. You were always the one holding the actual power, and they simply worked overtime to make sure you never figured that out. Before we dive any deeper into this, take a quick second to do something truly meaningful for yourself. If you have ever been manipulated, gaslit, or emotionally drained by someone who claimed to care about you, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Do it for your own personal growth, because what we are opening up today might completely change how you view every toxic person you have ever met. You see, most people fail to understand that these individuals do not operate on love, logic, or even hatred. They operate entirely on control. Control is the oxygen that keeps their fragile inner world from collapsing. The primary way they gain that control is by quietly studying everything about you. They track your deepest insecurities, your secret dreams, your past heartbreaks, and your basic human need to be understood. Then they carefully construct a persona that feels like the answer to everything you ever wanted. That is why the beginning of the relationship felt so magical. It was not genuine connection. It was strategic observation. They were mapping out your weaknesses so they could use them against you later. The moment you start healing and reclaiming your strength, that map becomes useless, and their influence vanishes into thin air. When a narcissist senses that their hold over you is slipping away, they do not pause for self-reflection. Instead, they respond with hidden panic, disguised as sudden dominance. They might turn completely cold without warning, or suddenly shower you with overwhelming affection you never asked for. They might disappear for days without explanation, or start explosive arguments over completely trivial details. They will drag up old memories, rewrite history, and accuse you of things that never happened, fully expecting you to flinch, doubt your own mind, and shrink back into a quiet, manageable shape. But when you refuse to break, when you stay grounded and maintain a calm gaze, something deep inside them begins to fall apart. Their entire identity relies on pulling a reaction out of you, and without your emotional response, their artificial persona cannot survive. Underneath all the arrogance, cruelty, and cold distance, there is only a terrified child who never learned how to feel secure inside their own skin. That is the hidden root of their endless need to dominate, humiliate, and demand absolute obedience from everyone around them. When a strong person who has done the inner work refuses to bow down, the narcissist experiences pure psychological horror. The very first sign that a narcissist is losing their grip on you is sudden, irrational rage. This is not anger that follows logical sense. It is an explosive outburst that erupts out of nowhere, completely out of proportion to whatever just happened. It might be triggered by a neutral tone of voice, a brief delay in responding to a text, a gentle boundary you set, or a moment where you failed to laugh at their joke. That sudden explosion was never actually about what you said or did. It was about what you failed to give them. You did not give them the fear they wanted. You did not give them the submission they demanded. You refused to supply the emotional drama they rely on. So in their distorted mind, they decide to escalate the situation immediately. If charm no longer works to keep you in line, intimidation becomes their next weapon. And if intimidation fails to produce results, total destruction becomes their final effort to regain control. Pay very close attention here, because recognizing this specific escalation is what protects your peace before things spiral any further. The second sign you will notice is sudden, heavy withdrawal. This takes the form of the silent treatment, an icy shoulder, sudden disappearing acts, or an empty stare from across the room. To an untrained observer, this looks like pure indifference. But what is happening inside them is the exact opposite of calm. They are actively trying to punish you. They want you to feel completely invisible, abandoned, and desperate for their attention. They are testing you to see if your old fear of rejection is strong enough to drag you back to them on your knees. If you remain calm, refuse to chase them, and let the silence stand, you accomplish something they cannot endure. You prove that their absence does not destroy your world. That realization delivers a massive blow to their fragile ego. Drop a comment right below this video and type the single word "awake" if this is starting to make sense, because seeing these patterns clearly is the first real step toward taking back your life. When internal tricks fail, the third sign emerges as dramatic blame shifting. Suddenly, every single issue in the entire relationship becomes entirely your fault. Every harsh word they yelled was triggered by you. Every lie they told happened because you were not trusting enough. And every betrayal was caused by your failure to love them correctly. This is not a real conversation. It is a deliberate tactic to reinstall guilt and self-doubt back into your mind. Without those toxic feelings running quietly in the background, you become completely unreachable, strong, and genuinely free. The fourth sign is a widespread smear campaign. When they realize they can no longer manipulate you directly, they turn their attention outward to friends, family, co-workers, or anyone who will listen. They paint you as unhinged, cold, unstable, or cruel, flipping the narrative so convincingly that even old acquaintances start looking at you with doubt. This campaign is not just an attack on your character. It is a desperate attempt to build a social cage around you, hoping that if enough people view you as the problem, you will eventually start believing the lie yourself. Most people never realize that emotional independence is the absolute most dangerous threat to a toxic person. Not money, not status, and not even the physical act of walking away. It is your emotional detachment that cuts off their supply completely. The moment you stop seeking their approval, validation, or permission to feel good about yourself, you disconnect the line they were using to drain your energy. A toxic person without a steady source of emotional reactions becomes deeply unstable. That is precisely why they grow more aggressive as you begin to heal. In their mind, your recovery feels like total starvation. Your inner peace feels like an insult, and your growing self-respect feels like a direct attack. They do not want you to thrive. They need you to stay reactive, anxious, and dependent. Boundaries are not rigid walls. Boundaries are clear mirrors, and a narcissist cannot stand looking into a mirror. Every time you set a boundary, you force them to see that you exist separately from them, with a mind and soul they can no longer command. Underneath every insult, every silent treatment, every fake story, and every sudden outburst of anger, there is only one core emotion driving their entire lives. It is constant, overwhelming fear. They live in perpetual dread of being exposed, seen for who they really are, deemed ordinary, or left completely alone. They manage that internal nightmare by forcing someone else to carry the weight for them. For a long time, that person was you. The reason your healing terrifies them is because the moment you put down the emotional baggage they handed you, they are forced to carry it themselves. Their rage is not strength, it is panic. Their cold silence is not power, it is a desperate punishment. Their smear campaign is not influence, it is the noise of someone losing their hold on reality. Once you see the giant as nothing more than a frightened individual screaming behind a mask, you can never be controlled by them again. Their absolute worst nightmare is not just you leaving, it is you transforming into someone they can no longer recognize or manipulate. The version of you they preferred was the version that doubted itself, apologized too quickly, overgave, and stayed far too long. When you become someone who moves calmly, sets boundaries without guilt, and chooses peace over chaos, you become a complete stranger to them. Old tricks do not work on a new mindset. Your personal growth is the ultimate victory, not because it gets revenge, but because genuine healing cannot be spun into a false narrative. A healed person does not argue, engage, beg, or explain themselves. They simply live their life with quiet confidence. Nothing haunts a manipulator more than watching you build a peaceful reality that they could never create for themselves. Self-respect becomes an invisible shield where guilt trips slide off, gaslighting fails to take root, and empty flattery loses all its charm. You were never weak for getting caught in their web. You were generous, trusting, and capable of deep empathy in a world that often takes those traits for granted. They did not target you because you were broken. They chose you because you carried a natural warmth and brightness that they could never generate on their own. The day you realize you were the real source of strength in that dynamic, everything shifts permanently. You stop grieving what was lost and realize you were never the loser in that situation. You were the survivor who made it out. When you see them throw a sudden tantrum or attempt a cheap manipulation tactic, do not see power. See a complete breakdown of their control. See the simple truth that they are terrified of the version of you that woke up and stopped flinching. Keep choosing your peace every single day. Keep honoring your boundaries and step fully into the quiet freedom that was always meant to be yours. When you finally break free from their carefully constructed cage, the manipulator will not stop at just smearing your name. They will actively recruit people from your own life to pull you back into the chaos. These enablers will come to you with seemingly good intentions, urging you to forgive, forget, and keep the peace for the sake of history. They do not understand that the peace they are asking you to maintain is actually the cost of your own sanity. The toxic individual relies heavily on this social pressure because they know they have lost their direct access to your mind. They attempt to weaponize your natural empathy against you by using shared connections to make you doubt your firm decisions. But this is exactly where your quiet self-respect becomes an impenetrable fortress. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your survival, nor do you owe them a front-row seat to your recovery. When people come to you demanding reasons for your new boundaries, you can simply smile and offer absolutely nothing in return. Your solid silence in the face of their interrogation is the ultimate proof that the old script has been burned permanently. Drop a like on this video right now if you have ever had to walk away from not just a toxic person, but the entire group of people who enabled their behavior. It is undeniably one of the hardest steps in the healing journey, but it is also the most liberating move you will ever make. Let us talk about what actually happens to your physical body when you finally step out of their suffocating shadow. For months or even years, your nervous system was locked in a constant, exhausting state of survival. You were perpetually scanning the room, analyzing their unpredictable moods, filtering your words carefully, and holding your breath while waiting for the next explosive reaction. You were living in a psychological war zone, disguised as a romantic relationship or friendship. But as you continue to choose your own peace and distance yourself, something incredible begins to happen on a biological level. Your shoulders finally drop away from your ears. Your breathing becomes deeper, slower, and completely unforced. The chronic exhaustion that you genuinely thought was just a normal part of everyday life starts to lift like a heavy fog. The manipulator desperately wants you to believe that life without their guidance is dangerous, isolating, and impossibly cold. The absolute reality is that life without them is the first deep breath of fresh air you have taken in years. You slowly start to rediscover the simple, quiet joys that they systematically crushed out of your daily routine. You remember exactly what it feels like to laugh loudly without wondering if it will trigger a sudden argument. This deep biological reset is the quietest, most undeniable evidence that you made the right choice, and it is a state of genuine calm that no manipulator can ever fake. The ultimate victory against someone who actively tried to destroy your spirit is simply living a vibrant, successful, and deeply joyful life without them. They want you permanently stuck in a miserable loop of bitterness and endless rumination, forever analyzing what went wrong and exhausting yourself trying to make sense of their disordered mind. Do not give them that valuable real estate in your brain for another second. The charming mask they wore in the beginning was nothing more than an illusion, a perfectly tailored mirage designed specifically to mirror your own beautiful qualities back to you. The profound love and connection you thought you were receiving was actually just a reflection of your own immense capacity to love. That means everything good, pure, and magical about that early connection actually originated from your own heart. You get to take all of that incredible light with you into your future, leaving them empty-handed. You are not starting over from scratch. You are starting over from a place of hard-earned wisdom and unbreakable personal power. As you walk forward into this brilliant new chapter, leave the heavy, toxic baggage of their brokenness entirely behind you. You cannot fix them, you cannot save them, and it was never your responsibility to try. If you are ready to completely claim that beautiful future for yourself, type the word freedom in the comments right now. Keep moving forward, keep trusting your sharp intuition, and never look back at the hollow illusion you wisely left behind.